We'll just begin in another like a minute or so that we can also wait for more people to get online. Let's do it. Hey, hi everyone. Can everyone see my screen fine? Is the screen sharing
Yes.
going okay? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so it's 12 and just for everyone's benefit, we have started our live streaming for this event on YouTube. So it will be under the MedTech Innovator YouTube channel. But in general, if you have any of your colleagues that would like to join, they can join doing so with the generic Zoom link that is provided in the email. So everyone is a panelist, either the judges or the startups are panelists, but we can, like if you have colleagues, then they go by the attendees under this event. So welcome everyone. Thank you for taking up your 3 hours of your afternoon this Tuesday for this online pitch event. We have here with us like some of our teammates from the MedTech team. So there's Frederick, there's Liz. So Liz is our US program director, and of course there's Paul there. So Paul is our CEO of MedTech Innovator, and I'll get everyone to have a quick introduction about themselves. After Paul gives the introduction about MedTech. So Frederick, do you want to say a few words to just introduce yourself? And then we can go on to Liz, and then Paul can take it over.
I will do that. Thank you, Sakina. So very warm welcome to everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. We have 28 participants so far, and I think the number is growing steadily. My name is Frederick Nyberg. I'm the Managing Director for MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific, based here in Singapore. This is our second pitch event this year. There'll be more to come, of course. I wanted to, of course, extend a particular warm welcome to some of our first-time judges that are on the call today. We have 3 new sponsors this year from Align Technology, Siemens Healthineers, and Oliver Healthcare Packaging. And you'll all get to introduce yourselves in just a moment. Hope everyone's doing well during these very unusual and extraordinary times. I think by now everyone's quite comfortable using online platforms, so I don't think there should be any problems. If you do have problems, do feel free to email either myself or Sakina. With that, I will hand over to either Paul or Liz.
All right, great, very good. Hello, everybody. Hi, I'm Paul Grand from MedTech Innovator. I'm the CEO and founder of MedTech Innovator. Hopefully, you're all joining from somewhere comfortable. We're going to be talking for the next 3 hours or so, meeting a bunch of really great companies. I'm really looking forward for all of you to learn about these companies, as well as to have a chance to meet the members of the MedTech Innovator team and hear what MedTech Innovator is all about. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So let me do that. Hi, everyone. So stand by. Again, I'm Paul Grand, CEO of MedTech Innovator. For those of you who haven't met me, I was an entrepreneur turned venture capitalist for about 12 years, always in the life sciences space. And then I started MedTech Innovator as a program within the venture firm that I was at. And after starting that, we decided MedTech Innovator was too big to keep doing within our venture firm and spun it out in 2016. This is the 8th year we've been running the MedTech Innovator program, and you're going to hear all about it now. So let me tell you a little bit about MedTech Innovator and our background. In the upper right-hand corner, you see our hashtag MedTech Asia Pacific, as well as our @MedTech Awards Twitter handle. If you're someone who is on LinkedIn, please use the hashtag above. And if you're on Twitter, please use the @MedTech Awards Twitter handle. If you want to screen grab and post something online or just say something great about the companies that are pitching today. So let me walk you through a little bit about MedTech Innovator. What we are is a nonprofit. We were started by the industry as a program that was designed specifically to find medtech startups, diagnostics, devices, digital health companies, no matter where they are, all across the globe. The idea was to find the companies that we believe can make a huge impact on healthcare and make sure those companies succeed. It's something that we're very proud of. It's something that we do exclusively. There's no other side job for us. This is our full-time jobs. And as I mentioned, we've been doing this now in total for 8 years. In Asia Pacific, this is our 2nd year. So we had our first year's program in 2019 in Asia Pacific. You see the graduating class on your screen. So that is the cohort from the 2019 program. That was a showcase only program, which meant they had a little bit of coaching and a little bit of feedback from our various partners. But it was mainly a showcase program where we selected companies and had them present at the MedTech Forum. So you see them all up on stage, as well as a competition and finals competition. But the important thing is that there are a cohort of companies that we selected from across Asia Pacific. And the idea, as I said, again, was to take these companies and really advance them to the next stage by putting in front of the leadership of the industry. So a little more about MedTech Innovator and our performance over these years. So as you can see on the slide, MedTech Innovator now has 258 alumni companies. I think that's the most important statistic, which is why we have it in the upper left. As you'll see throughout our program, one of the things that we're most proud of is that this program allows us to connect startups wherever they may be all over the world and put them together. MedTech, diagnostics, digital health is pretty solitary in many ways when you think about the rest of the tech sector. And these companies tend to be pretty isolated. What we do in MedTech Innovator is we connect all these companies together so they have a high performing cohort of startups to work with all across the globe. And that means that our US companies can work with our Asia Pacific companies, our companies in Europe or elsewhere are able to do the same. So the idea is that all these companies can help each other out. And that really is probably one of the highest values of the program, is connecting up high value, high performing startups. Our companies have gone on to raise over 1.4 billion in follow-on funding since MedTech Innovator. We have 42 products in the market, something that we're particularly proud of. Our mission is to bring technology to patients and make sure those products actually deliver value when they get to the market. We have over 200 reviewers and judges actively participating as we speak in our current program, with over 600 in total who are part of our ecosystem. So these are people who are available to provide feedback and guidance to startups and to mentor the startups as they go through our program. Geographically, we're very happy that we've been able to source from all across Asia Pacific. So we have companies coming in from all across the region, as well as throughout the globe. And when you look at some of the stats, it's always nice to see that companies, generally are relatively new. So most of the companies were started since 2017. If you look at the graph on the left, development stage wise, we see that most of the companies are somewhere between preclinical and the market. So most of the companies tend to be earlier stage. So again, it's a program that's pretty diverse in its geography, stage, and age of company. And what we're doing is we're basically going out, trying to find companies that we believe can really make a difference and have them apply to the program. So we work with partners all over the place, all over the world. They encourage startups to apply, and that's how they hear about us. In the Asia Pacific program, we have over 180 companies that have applied thus far. We're continuing to accept applications in some cases. In our US program, we have over 1,000 companies that have applied. So in total this year, we're well over 1,000 companies between the US and Asia Pacific programs. In Asia Pacific, we have 30 companies or more that we're inviting to pitch at events like today. And we're going to choose 20 companies to be part of our accelerator as part of that. The important thing we'll talk about in a little while is what that means for the accelerator. But just for now, understand that 20 of the companies are going to be part of our accelerator. So it's a very high degree of acceptance once companies get into events, but today, like today. And in terms of our finalists, we'll actually be taking all of the 20 companies. They'll all be advancing to the showcase that we have later in the program, but we'll be choosing 4 of those companies to compete in our finals in the APAC, the Asia Pacific MedTech Forum, which will be in Singapore this year. There'll be 1 grand prize winner, as well as some additional prizes, which you'll learn more about. So there's a good chance the companies who are competing today are going to be up on that final stage. So a little more about our timing. We're in our pitch event phase right now, March through May. We'll be doing these pitch events all online. As everyone here on this program knows, we are in an unprecedented time when it comes to the world and to the events that COVID-19 have presented. But we've adapted by having all of our events move online this season, which has been very easy for us because we've always run a virtual program. So we've been really prepared for this. But I do say that we like to get together in person. So we will be trying to provide some opportunities for in-person meetups when those become appropriate. Until then, we will be virtual throughout the program. One of the dates I want to call your attention to is early June. That's for our accelerator selection. So companies that are presenting today, you'll be hearing from us by early June at the latest to let you know whether or not you've made it into the accelerator. You'll likely be hearing from us as well in advance of that. In June through September, we then have our virtual accelerator program and the mentorship by our partners, which I'll be telling you more about in a little bit. And at the end of the program, after all that's complete, we'll have the MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific Showcase and Finals competition, which, as I mentioned, is going to be in Singapore this year at the Asia Pacific MedTech Forum. That is run by an organization called APAC Med, which is a trade association based in Singapore, but it's not just for Singaporean companies, it's for companies all across Asia Pacific. It's an organization that you'll get to hear more about as we move along in this program. They offer tremendous resources, not just to large companies, but also to startups. And the idea, again, is to bring together all the players in the ecosystem so that all of us can work together to be successful. So a little more about that MedTech Forum. As I mentioned, that's going to be in Singapore on the 15th through 16th of September this year. That's going to be a program that will give you the opportunity to connect with the leadership of the MedTech industry in Asia Pacific. And what do I mean by that? So you see Kevin Lobo on the left-hand side of the slide. He's the chairman and CEO at Stryker and also the chairman at APAC Med. So this is an opportunity to get in front of people who are there, who are running the industry, and have an opportunity to meet with people like that. So terrific opportunity to see the leadership of the MedTech industry. One of the other things that you're going to see as you move along in this program and you get to be introduced to some of the judges today, as I mentioned, is that we have leadership from the industry here to meet with you. So our sponsors, as I'm mentioning, our partners are both financial sponsors, which is extremely important to an organization like us. They give us financial support, but more importantly, they're here in person, represented at our in-person events or at our online events as we're doing them now. So you're going to get a chance to meet some of these judges in a moment. I'm just going to recognize the companies by name right now. We have Align Technology, who's one of our newest sponsors in Enterprise Singapore. Nipro Medical, Johnson & Johnson, Oliver Healthcare Packaging, Olympus, and Siemens Healthineers. You're going to meet representatives from some of these companies in a moment, so I'll let them introduce themselves. But again, one of the things that I mentioned before that's so important about this program is not just that they're, as I said, supporting us as an organization. They'll be mentoring the companies in this program. They'll be choosing the companies who advance to our accelerator. This is an opportunity to engage with the leadership of these organizations and get feedback in an early stage when there's still time to make changes to your plans. We want to make sure that you have the right regulatory strategy, that you have the right reimbursement plans, market access plans, that your product development plans make sense, that you've designed your products in a way that's workable so that they actually get purchased. by people in the industry. So a lot more to come about that in a moment. So I mentioned before that we have a whole series of judges. I'm going to have Sakina Tan, who I think many of you have met in advance, go through and introduce each of the judges. So Sakina, if you want to unmute yourself, you can go ahead and introduce the judges. And then also after that, we'll let Liz from MedTech Innovator say hello as well. But Sakina, if you want to introduce our judges.
Sure. So hi everyone. So I think we can start with the new judges. So we have Moaz from Align. You can say hi.
Hey, hello everybody. My name is Moaz Zetia. I'm the VP and Managing Director of Itero Business Unit in Asia Pacific. This is part of Align Technology, which is the inventor of Invisalign, which is a digital technology to move teeth instead of braces. And I'm in charge of the scanner business of this company, which is basically targeting dentists to take impressions with digital way instead of what is being used usually with an analog.
Okay, then just Moaz's colleague, Julie, you do want to say hi?
Hi, this is Julie. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be on the panel today. 22 years ago, Align Technology was a startup, and we still feel like we are one. And it's good to be seeing this many, aspiring and startups. So, thank you for having us.
Thank you. The next one will be Deep. I think Deep just rejoined as a panelist. Hi, Deep.
Hi everyone, this is Deep from Boston Scientific. I'm the Commercial Director for Urology and Pelvic Health for Asia Pacific, Boston Scientific. It's good to be back with this team. We did this last year. It was a great success and tremendously enjoyed the interaction with the companies and looking forward to this year as well. So thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. Next up, we have Dan from Fountain Medical. Dan, could you give us hello?
Hello. Hi, everyone. This is Dan from Fountain Medical, which is clinical CRO. I founded the company 13 years ago. Now we have 1,700 employees globally. We started with exclusive service provider for medical device companies. However, now we're doing a lot of things, including medical device. This is my third time to be a judge on this great event. Looking forward for a great show today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. So next up is Masakazu Yagi from Japan Biodesign.
Yeah, hi all. I'm Masakazu Yagi from Japan Biodesign. I'm a program director of Japan Biodesign. Now we are trying to build a MedTech innovation ecosystem in Japan. Now we have a program, and from our program, now we have several emerging startups, and hopefully our startups will contribute to this event more and more in the future. I'm very excited to join today. Thank you.
Thank you. And next up, we have the Johnson & Johnson team. So Roger. Is Roger online?
Sakina, Roger will be joining us later. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I guess you could go next.
I can go, or Peter looks like is next online.
Oh, Peter. Yeah, Peter can go.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, guys. So Peter Hawkes, look after business development for Asia Pacific. Very excited to be here. We've been sponsoring this program in the US for the past 7 years, and also last year in Asia Pacific. Along with my colleagues from the Asia Pacific Innovation Center, we're very much focused on finding innovation in Asia for Asia. I'm excited to join them and to really be part of this program. So looking forward to it.
Very impressive virtual background, Peter.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
You know, this is how we roll. So.
Oh. Okay, Stefan, you can go after.
I want to first check whether Dan Wang is online. She is our head of Asia Pacific Innovation Center.
Yeah, Stephen, please go ahead. I can follow you.
Okay, thanks, Dan. So I work for Johnson & Johnson, of course, Johnson & Johnson has a 130-year history. No need to call that out, but we're also quite diversified, as a lot of people know. Ethicon and DePuy Synthes are some of our branded franchises that focus on medical device. I work for the Asia Pacific Innovation Center, which Dan Wang heads. I'm the new venture lead for the organization covering North Asia, which includes Taiwan, Hong Kong, and for me. My role is to look for external innovations that fit with our internal R&D strategy. And another role that I play for the organization is the regional transaction lead for devices. So this is a very exciting opportunity for me to look at device-related innovation coming out of region. So I'm looking forward to hearing more from the applicants.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
So that was the Johnson & Johnson team. Next up, we have Huye from Medtronic.
Oh, don't forget Dan.
I'm sorry, you want to let Dan Wang?
Oh, sorry. Yep, Dan.
No problem.
So
Hi,
sorry,
Paul.
Dan.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you virtually. My name is Dan Wang, the head of Asia Pacific Innovation Center. So I appreciate my colleagues, Peter, Stephen. They give a wonderful introduction on Johnson & Johnson innovation. MedTech is, of course, of our prioritized area. We are continuously looking for the new technology, new innovation that we can accelerate the develop, and we can accelerate, the introduction of the new product to the market to benefit the patients. So again, I'm very honored to be here as part of this wonderful judge panel. Looking forward to the discussion today.
Thank you very much, Dan. So sorry about the earlier thing.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Johnson & Johnson, and moving forward, we have Medtronic. So Huye from Medtronic could say hi.
Hi, everyone. My name is Hu from Medtronic. I'm working for Medtronic China BD Venture and Accelerator team. So Medtronic started business in Minneapolis 7 years ago from garage, and now we have footprint all over the world. We have around like 2 billion USD business in China now. In China, we try to be perform like a local company by a lot of localization initiatives. So we here have business development. Besides traditional merge and acquisition, licensing, we also have venture team here to invest in early innovative technologies. And also we have Medtronic MedTech Accelerator in Shanghai to incubate MedTech companies. It's my first time to be judged for MedTech Innovator. Very honored to be here, and hello friends from all the companies.
Thank you, Shu. So the next one, we would have the Nipro team. So Tomoko, you could go.
Hi everyone, this is Tomoko Ishikura from Nipro Corporation. I'm a business development advisor for Nipro, and I'm located in San Francisco Bay Area looking for new opportunities for new technologies. And we've been working with MedTech Innovator for the last 3 years. And it's been a great opportunity to find and then work with very exciting startup companies. And this is our first year to join for Asia Pacific program. And we are very excited to meet with those many participants and then excited to see all the pitch today.
Thank you, Tomoko. So next we have Mr. Akira.
From Japan. We have a R&D center and manufacturers, and also we have a medical training center in Kansai areas. And I'm a medical doctor and also general manager of medical training center. And today we have 4 colleagues to join this meeting from the R&D center. Hope we'll have a good meeting today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Akira. Thank you, Akira. So next up we have Ryota, also from Nipro.
Hey everyone, this is Ryota Umegaki from Nipro Corporation. I'm a manager of business development Nipro is about 70 years old company, and we exploring new business, and not only renal field, but also vascular treatment and cell therapy field. Yeah, so we participated in MedTech Innovator Asia program for the first time. So we are excited to join this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nipro, judges, and Nirata. So next up, we have Oliver Healthcare Packaging's Aldin. So Aldin is also a first-time judge with us.
Yeah, hi. My name is Alden Velich. I'm the general manager based in Singapore for Oliver's Asia Pacific region. Oliver's been around for 120 years, but we've been doing medical for about a little over 40 years. So we've helped just about all the top 100 medtech companies launch devices and provide sterile barrier systems to them. We also do a lot of regulatory advising regarding FDA and 11607. So this is our second judging session, and I look forward to some of the presentations. Thank you.
Thank you, Alden. So next up, we have the Olympus team. So Ken can start off.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ken Fujinuma from Olympus, Tokyo, Japan. I used to develop energy surgical equipment, so I want to find new surgical device innovations. I look forward to the event today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. So next up, we have Kentaro.
Hello, everyone. This is Kentaro from Technology Innovation Office from Olympus. Technology Innovation Office is developed 3 years ago, and then the focus is to find the opportunity for the endoscopic area. And I'm very honored to be here, and then I'm excited to have the discussion with you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kiyoshi.
Yes, I'm Kiyoshi Miyake. So I'm a technical manager in Olympus. So we are exploring a new technology and solution in the GI, general surgery, and ENT and urology gynecology field, basically. So today, I'm excited for meeting the startups to find sort of good and innovative solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Kiyoshi. So next up, we have Yuji.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yuji Takamiya from Olympus. Currently, my role is strategy analysis of our company and the other companies. And as we have more than 100 history in the medical device area, and we are looking for the very seed of the medical devices for the next decade's business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yuji and the Olympus team. So next up, we have the Siemens Healthineers team. Lauren, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be part of that session today. Siemens Healthineers is a quite new member of the team. We are still in the initial phase of joining the team. As a company, we are quite old, I have to say. We are since years, decades, and even centuries in that medical area. We have a quite strong installed base when it comes to the imaging area, but also diagnostic. So we are happy to join that team, and I'm looking forward to a good session today. By the way, Dan is not in the call yet, so she will join later. So that's
okay, cool. So I guess next we have William from Warburg Pincus.
Hi, everyone. This is William Jim. I'm the senior advisor for Warburg Pincus and helping Warburg Pincus to assess some of medical device area or healthcare area project in China. So nice to meeting everyone online and looking forward for the event. Thank you.
Thanks, William, and thanks all of the judges. So just a side note, if you guys could rename with your name and then the company which you're representing, this will allow the startups to identify easily when you ask the questions in the Q&A sessions later. So under the Zoom settings, you can rename yourself to your name and then company name. So next up, Paul, would you like to, okay, go through the evaluation matrix?
I will. Yeah, I'm going to do this very quickly so we can get started with the pitches. So very quickly, just wanted to let everybody know at MedTech Innovator, what we do is we really focus in 3 different areas: value, execution, and momentum. You can see the slide here. It's also on our website under our FAQs. So you can find this for yourself, or you can screen capture it if you want. But basically, this will show you some of the areas that we evaluate companies in. Our judges are going to be talking about some of these things today. They'll be asking questions, not specifically these questions. They'll ask whatever they'd like. But the idea is to kind of get at some of these things to really understand the value of your product to the healthcare system and globally, not just in Asia Pacific. In some cases, execution, we want to make sure you have the resources to execute. You don't have to have the perfect team and everything, but we want to make sure you're on the right path. And the momentum, we want to make sure that you have milestones that are achievable, that make sense, and really understand your time to achieving those milestones. So we'll be talking about some of those things as we go forward today. But again, the companies that are going to do well in MedTech Innovator are going to do well in these areas. So we have 5 companies presenting today. I'll let Sakina introduce them. Before she does that, I'm just going to introduce a couple, I think one other member of our team, Liz Peak, who's on as well. Liz, if you want to say hi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Liz Peak. I'm the program director for our US program. Also, I met many of you previously at our last year's pitch events for Asia Pacific because I was running that program as well. And now handing off nicely to Sakina. So welcome, everyone, and we're glad to have you here. And with that, I will throw it back to Sakina.
Thanks, Liz. So the first startup we'll be going is Vigor. So John is actually also situated in the US. So it's kind of like it's almost 12 midnight maybe, I'm not sure. So the first startup to go is Vigor. So John, would you like to share your screen and say hi?
Go ahead and stop my share. So before he starts speaking, I'm just going to give everyone just kind of the rules for how this is going to work. So basically, each of our startups is going to have 5 minutes to do a presentation. Startups, if you could try and keep a timer somewhere near yourself as you're presenting, make sure that you try and keep your presentation to about 5 minutes. We'll be watching the clock. If it goes too much over 5 minutes, we'll politely interrupt and remind you to let you know that you're at about 5 minutes, so that you're able to wrap up and have a chance for our judges to ask lots of questions, which is really important to us. So try and keep it to around 5 minutes if you can, and take it away.
Can everyone see my slide on the screen?
We can.
Great. And the slides are numbered with a number on the bottom right-hand corner. So if you want to reference any information for questions. Hi, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm John Joe, the CEO of Vigor Medical Systems. We are a medical device and a digital health software platform company focused on respiratory diseases. We're tackling global lung problems, the biggest 2 of which are asthma and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD. Together, these 2 conditions affect more than 500 million people on this planet. Tackling global problems requires a global team, and we've assembled a really experienced and skilled team who have skin in the game. Of the 9 people here, 5 of us whose names are in green with a $sign after it have personally invested our own cash into this company, more than 250,000 US dollars into this company. 2 of us are physicians. Another 2 are former C-level executives with GlaxoSmithKline and Eli Lilly, respectively. We aim to change how respiratory diseases are diagnosed and managed for the better. Our devices, which we've already received a patent on, were validated in a clinical trial at Duke University as being equivalent to the refrigerator-sized gold standard lung function testing devices that can cost tens of thousands of dollars. Our technology involves no moving parts, so there's no calibration required, and it's a digitally connected device. There are lots of handheld devices in the market, They pretty much use metal flats or turbines, which require calibration, and they haven't been validated against international standards. If we look at the next slide, these other devices operate in the 1 to 2 second range of measurement on the left-hand side of this diagram, while our device covers the full range out to 15 seconds. All of these parameters which are necessary for diagnosing and staging conditions like COPD. Our two largest markets would be China and India due to the population and disease burden. In China, there are a number of spirometers that are manufactured locally on the market, but ours is superior in terms of function, mobility, technology, and connectivity. And I'll throw in as price as well. We're superior in that area. There are several use cases for our products. The first is diagnostic testing. Areas where there are insufficient spirometry or it's too expensive, we would take the traditional device sales path through distributors to get our device to market. The second use case is preoperative evaluation. There's a global evidence base that shows that fully assessing lung function before surgery of various kinds will improve outcomes of patients. This is standard of care in the Western countries, but the emerging markets, it's hardly practiced. And as a J-Labs company, I've had discussions with the J&J innovation team on how we might be able to address this area, at least in the China market and perhaps India. And then the third use case is disease management and monitoring. This is the digital health model, and it's applicable across a broad range of lung conditions. Yet the lack of devices like ours in the market has limited the evidence base. So we have partnered with leading key opinion leaders in leading academic medical centers in the US to build that evidence base, and we'll move into China KOLs as well. Looking at the first use case for device sales to hospitals, just looking at one segment of the market, the class 2 hospitals in China, there is a $328 million total available market in this one segment alone. If we look at the revenue model for COPD disease management, and we validated numbers in both China in terms of pricing numbers in China and the US for this market, and it results in a 6.7 billion total available market for just COPD disease management in China and the US. Our chief medical advisor, Dr. Neil McIntyre at Duke, is a global expert, and he is co-author of the American and European standards for spirometry. He and I lead a team of collaborators from Stanford, UCSF, and Kaiser Permanente in developing the protocols, the evidence base and the protocols and the predictive models for use in our products. As we take those products to market, we're going as a business-to-business model. And we've already engaged in conversations with large pharma. And also we have a deep contact list with key people on our team, including our investors, with large payer and provider organizations in both the Western and the Eastern hemispheres. Currently, we are going through regulatory approval process in both China and the US as a class 2 medical device. And we have consultants helping us in Europe and India as well. In China and the US, there's already payment mechanisms in place to reimburse for the digital health that our products would provide, as well as the diagnostic testing that we provide. So we have spent about $500,000 US, very capital conservative, and a lot of grants that we've been able to achieve some significant milestones on the left-hand side of the screen, including patent and clinical trial and engagement of partners. We're aiming to get the regulatory approval in 2020 with some additional cash, and then going to market in 2021 with a Series A to help fund those activities. And hopefully we can become a part of MedTech Innovator to be able to accelerate us through manufacturing and regulatory, the development of our clinical evidence and commercial plan, and also getting us positioned for our Series A raise. And that's my formal presentation, and I'm open for questions.
So now to the judges, do we have any questions? We have about 10 minutes of questions we can ask, John.
Yeah.
Go ahead. So can you explain, you kind of skipped about your device, and it would be helpful if you could explain the function and its technologies, how they are superior to the existing device.
Yes. So one of the keys is the range of lung function testing that's illustrated in this slide, and the equivalency trial that we have conducted with devices that are used in hospitals that are large devices. So the other products that are on the market, if we look at China, for example, there are some smaller, less expensive devices. And so China is probably the most advanced market in terms of spirometry that's beyond those large refrigerator-sized devices used in the Western countries. The key thing is the mobility and the cloud connectivity of our device, and the ability to aggregate the data that's collected from our device into analytics, where we can generate predictive models using other data elements in addition to the lung function. So taking into account things such as air quality data, even the genetics of the patient. There's COPD gene project, and there's also, in conjunction with Kaiser Permanente, they have large populations of thousands of patients where there's genotypic and phenotypic data that we can add lung function data to develop predictive models. So it's the combination of the factors, the device, the digital health platform, and then the software that'll be part of our offering that really distinguishes us from what's out in the market currently.
Thank you.
Okay. You are a US company, and your priority market is US and and China and India, right? So how do you establish the sales channels?
A great question. So we have relationships with people in Asia, and I specifically aimed at the JLabs. We have a JLabs here in Houston, but I applied to the one that opened in Shanghai to try to establish our presence there. One of our key partners in the slide of 9 people is based in Hong Kong, and has through his network a factory for manufacturing in Chongqing. We also have an engineering team along with him in Hong Kong. And then one of our co-founders is based in Singapore, and one of our commercial advisors, Dr. Jeremy Lim, is also based in Singapore. So we aim to open a Singapore office this year, and in addition to our JLabs Shanghai presence, to try to serve China, India, and Southeast Asia. And then our registration in my home office is in the US, though last year, until October, I'd been in Asia every month for the previous 18 months.
Okay, thank you.
Hi.
Sorry, Dan, I think we seem to have lost you. You might want to reconnect your audio. Who else is speaking? Someone else is trying to ask a question?
Yes, Moaz here from Align Technology.
Yeah, go ahead, Moaz.
If I may. Question on slide 6, please, if you could go back. Can you please tell us more about the pricing strategy that you're following? I see here that it's pretty much half of the lowest priced competitor, while seems that the device is superior in many aspects. So please tell us more about the pricing.
Yes, our cost of goods and the total manufacturing cost is quite low, which gives us a significant amount of flexibility. And because of our focus, our interest in serving global markets, particularly areas where there's insufficient spirometry. So one thing I didn't point out in the slide regarding the global problems to solve, in 2018, there was a China pulmonary health study, nationwide study that was published as a joint project with the Ministry of Health and WHO. They estimated there are 80 million undiagnosed COPD patients in China. That'll be a big burden to the government and to society. There's inadequate spirometry in China, and we believe the same situation, a similar situation exists in India. And in these markets, an affordable solution is important in order to serve large numbers of people. So while there is an opportunity to increase our pricing, we're looking at a broad distribution of our product to be able to serve and help as many people as possible. And so we're aiming for a lower cost, based on the low cost to produce our device. We're aiming at trying to make it available at a low cost to get as broad distribution as possible in these markets.
Hi, John. This is Stephen Lee from Johnson & Johnson Innovation. Maybe you could elaborate a bit more on the analytics platform, and would your technology involve big data analysis? And if that's the case, what sort of data access do you currently have? And can you show that, combining this big data analytics leads to more accurate prediction compared to the gold standard?
Yes, there is a paper, there's a joint study with Kaiser Permanente and University of Washington, and maybe one or two other parties, but UW and Kaiser are the leads on this. They are looking at developing better models for prediction of asthma and COPD, chronic lung diseases. So we have, in discussions with Kaiser Permanente, some cross-fertilization of ideas there. For us, both of these, their group and our group have developed independently, and then we learned of each other. Both of our groups, and I can share that paper also for those of you who are interested, but we have some populations, our partners, the clinical partners I mentioned earlier, Stanford, UCSF, and Kaiser, have populations that they have already studied, and we're looking at designing programs to basically extend, taking those populations of patients where they looked at spirometry data, but they were only collecting spirometry data at most on a weekly basis. Usually it was on a monthly basis, having patients come into the clinic. And so taking cohorts of those patients and now extending those studies to have daily spirometry available for patients with asthma or COPD, and collecting additional data points, and then incorporating the other data points that are available in these patients. We can also add, because it goes through an app on a smartphone, we can collect the activity information on patients too. And so now we can cross-reference spirometry data with activity data, with air quality data, and other parameters, including blood pressure and glucose, even in patients that have comorbid conditions. So that goes into our analytics platform, and we'll do data modeling to identify algorithms for better predicting disease and how to better intervene to avoid unnecessarily emergency visits and hospitalizations.
A quick follow-on question to that. I wonder how much work you have done in China for accessing some of those patient-related data, and what sort of challenges that you see or is currently experiencing. And second question is, beyond COPD and asthma, are you looking at other lung diseases leveraging your technology to assess other lung diseases, including lung cancer potentially?
Lung cancer has a potential. Pulmonary fibrosis is one of the areas, and then transplant, there's just monitoring patients after surgery. That's standard of practice. And when I was out at UCSF and Stanford just a few weeks ago, before the Bay Area went on shelter-in-place orders, the pulmonologists there were saying, we'd like to try to get some of your devices so that we can monitor our post-transplant patients at home rather than having them come to the clinic where they may get exposed to COVID patients. There's a few populations there. And then in terms of China, I'll go to the end here to the appendix. We're no more than about 1 degree separated from each of the pulmonary KOLs in China at the bottom of this list. We have we have good access, but obviously these experts are consumed with the current pandemic, and hopefully when they have a bit more bandwidth. One of the things that we're doing, is looking at with the U.S. Where we're developing some studies. We're going to bring those studies to the KOLs in China and discuss localizing those study protocols and perhaps having some across continent collaboration on these studies in terms of developing our models.
Hey, John, this is Alden with Oliver Healthcare. Just a follow-up question to the comment on the pandemic. Do you guys anticipate any fast-track FDA approvals as a result?
Yes, we're definitely exploring that. And so we've had communications in our process right now with the NMPA in China and US FDA. And thanks to the folks at J Labs and J&J Innovation, we've also been connected with BARDA in the US. So I'm going through an application process there. That's not necessarily regulatory, but it's also a way to get experimental or compassionate use potentially of our device. With the academic institutions in the US, we're already discussing investigational use where we're doing observational data collection and not using our device for management of disease and adjusting drug doses at this point because we don't have the clearance from FDA, but rather just using it to collect data so that we can build the database for our data modeling.
All right, just one other follow-up question. Is there anything on the device that is maybe single use or requires any kind of sterilization?
No, the device is designed so that there will be a filter mouthpiece that's required for the professional version. So it'd be multi-use, one patient after another in the clinic. The patient use device would be assigned to an individual, but it's also designed to have a filter mouthpiece in place so that when people are blowing into the device, any sputum or mucus or saliva would get trapped by the filter and not get into the chamber, the air chamber, where it could potentially cause an accuracy issue. But the air chamber is easily removable and flushed under running water, and alcohol could be placed in it too for cleaning purposes for both the professional and the patient use device. So that top tube that you see there is the air tube. There's a removable segment of that for cleaning purposes, but a filter mouthpiece would normally be used at one end. And we'll also manufacture our own. We're using commercially available ones now, but we'll have our own. And for the professional device, we'll actually have a RFID chip with a serial number on each filter mouthpiece. So as you reset the professional device from one patient to the next, if it doesn't sense that a new filter mouthpiece that's been put on, the device will alert the users.
Hi. Can you go to the slide 7?
Yes.
So here you have show us the 3 use cases. Do you have any priority on this?
The first 2, I mean, they're all in parallel. The third one requires more development of the evidence base to guide use, but the first 2 are ready to go. And the diagnostic test case is the simplest, accessing existing sales and marketing channels for medical devices to sell our product alongside, as an additional offering, a new option for spirometry that's mobile and lower cost. And then in the preoperative evaluation use case, there's already an evidence base out there and a standard of practice that's being followed in the Western countries. So that'll require some additional effort to provide education and marketing programs in the emerging markets. But it's, the markets are ready. We just have to put together the marketing programs and approaches.
Thank you.
So Florian from Siemens Healthineers, and one question to the competition situation. you told us that the competitors don't have the connectivity yet for their systems. It takes you some time to be present in the market in China. So how big is the likelihood that the competition is closing the gap when it comes to net connectivity?
I think that the connectivity is relatively easy to accomplish. I think really in terms of the software and predictive modeling for disease management is where the value will be in those markets. And so the experts that are developing the evidence base in the US now, and then our collaborations with the Chinese KOLs will further cement that in terms of the building an evidence base, and the algorithms for the predictive models will become proprietary. We expect that at some point the devices will become a commodity, and it's really the data and the software that is going to differentiate us, and the collaboration with these key opinion leaders. As I look at some of the other devices there, I don't see the presence of a strong academic clinical background in creating the intellectual property in terms of not the device itself, but the algorithms and the software. So I think that is the area where we will have the moat around our proprietary differentiation.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry if I could just interrupt, because in essence of time, we have to move on to the next startup. So for any of the remaining judges that have questions, you guys can let us know, and we will be happy to connect you with John afterwards to take it further.
Great.
Okay.
And
thank you all
John,
so much.
Oh, sorry, John. I was just going to say before you go, this is Paul Grand. I just one other question for you again. So you mentioned briefly a little bit before about MedTech Innovator. So just real quickly, can you just tell us, what you're hoping to get out of participation in our Asia Pacific program?
Yes, we have some contacts in Asia, but we can never have enough contacts, and we can never have enough market knowledge and experience. So we really hope to be able to network with people to understand even things like I pointed out here, pitfalls with contracts with the factory partner for manufacturing, contracting with distributors. We want to learn as much about that as possible, and then partnering with the KOLs in Asia and developing a commercial plan for Asia, developing our Singapore office, and then hiring the right people to staff that to execute the commercial plan for Greater Asia. So those are specific areas that I think that MedTech Innovator can help accelerate us.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So the next startup.
Thank you so much.
Quickly, we have Grace Imaging. So it's Daisuke from Grace Imaging. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
All right, and so judges too, while we're about to start Grace Imaging, for the judges, especially ones who haven't done this before, so you have your form where you can enter your scores and comments on the company. There's an important thing in there. There's 2 questions I want to point out. One of them is the anonymous feedback question. So anything you put in that question, in that box, will be sent anonymously to the company. We'll check it, and we might spell check it for you. But besides that, we're pretty much going to send whatever you type in that one particular box to the company. So if you have any constructive criticism or comments or even praise you want to give to the company, make sure you put it directly in that one box where it says feedback anonymous to the company. Beyond that, the other things we want to make sure you're doing is scoring between 1 and 5 or 1 and 10 for some of the questions where it asks you for those things. 1 being weaker and 10 being stronger. And then importantly, at the very end, there's a place where you hit submit to submit your form. It should go back and save the form at that point and give you a new blank form to continue on with the next company. If for some reason it doesn't, or if you're running out of time to finish your scoring, you can check that little box that says save as draft, and then hit submit, it'll cache your form in your browser, and you'll be able to see a little number in the upper left-hand corner, like a 1 or a 2, to tell you how many forms you have cached, and you can go back and finish editing those later. So no pressure to finish in between the pitches. But that's how that works, and we can always answer questions later. If anyone's having any trouble, you can also use the chat and we can answer those questions. Sorry, back to you, Grace Imaging.
Daisuke, if you want to start your presentation, you can start now. And just a heads up to the judges as well. So we have to move on with the next startup later. So if there's any further questions, I might interrupt at the 10-minute mark so that we can just move on to the next startup. Okay, Daisuke, you can take it away now.
Are you muted? Maybe he's muted.
Daisuke, you can start your presentation.
Not muted. So he's good. We can't hear you though.
Hi, Daisuke, we can't hear your audio.
Do you want to go on and we can come back to them?
Yeah, we can move on to the next startup. And Daisuke, if you want to either shoot us an email or something, we can try and get your sound working before the next one.
All right, Sakina, very good.
Okay, cool. Okay, next one we have Norbit. Is Amia around? Yeah.
Yes. Give me a second. Let me share the screen.
Amia, we can't hear you.
Hold on. Can you hear me now?
It's a little on the softer side.
A little low, yeah.
Okay. Now. Hello?
Yep, that's better.
Okay, excellent. Is my screen shared?
It is.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Amia. I'm the CEO of Norbit. We are a company out of Singapore. And at Norbit, we are leveraging technology to make high quality sleep health accessible and affordable. Over 1 billion people across the world are suffering from a disease called sleep apnea. It's a disease where your breathing stops momentarily while you are sleeping. And this could happen because your throat muscles are relaxing so much that they are blocking the airway. Or it could happen because your brain is not sending the right signals to your lungs. In any case, this puts tremendous stress on your heart. Your organs are deprived of oxygen and your sleep becomes extremely fragmented. So not surprisingly, sleep apnea is at the center of multiple diseases like diabetes, obesity, and hypertension. Not only does it reduce the quality of your life, if you have severe apnea, it can reduce your life by almost 20 years compared to your healthier counterpart. Now, what is interesting is while treatments are very effective, they are affordable, more than 80% of the people with this disease are undiagnosed. And this is in the developed part of the world. If you go to the developing part, probably 99% are undiagnosed. And you must be thinking why. So this is how apnea is diagnosed today. This is what is called an in-lab sleep test. It is as uncomfortable as it looks. It's pretty expensive, ranging between $1,200 to $1,500. And the wait times could be ridiculous. So for example, in Singapore, the wait times in a government hospital is around 6 to 7 months. Now, this is where our technology comes in. Introducing MySleep.study, which is a revolutionary new way of diagnosing and screening apnea. It's a simple chest patch that we ship to your house. You connect it to you stick it to your chest and sleep with it, connect it to our mobile app. And in the morning, the moment you stop the recording, a clinical report is generated and sent to you and your doctor within seconds. And you can diagnose your condition then and there and start the treatment. Of course, we also send you additional patches like this, which you can connect and continue to use this device on a regular basis to track your sleep health. So this is going to be cleared by the FDA, so it's extremely accurate, it's fast, you get your reports within seconds, it's very convenient, there are no tangling wires, no nose cannula, no clumsy belts. It's very affordable, it costs $150 for the test and $99 per year for the subscription, and it's scalable by design. And what makes all this possible is our cloud AI-powered sleep scoring platform, which we call Z3 Score. It is already clinically validated. There are already 40 papers citing this technology. It's a result of over 6 years of research and development. The origins of it came out of Duke NUS Medical School in Singapore. And it's now trusted by over 70 universities and research labs across the world. And this gives us access to an incredible amount of very high quality multi-channel sleep data. And this data and our expertise is what allowing us to build this product so quickly. So we'll be entering the market in 2 different phases. Phase 1 is with Z3 Score, which is the analytics platform, which fits very nicely with existing sleep labs and sleep clinics to reduce the burden of manual scoring of sleep data. In phase 2, we enter with our chest patch, which allows us to address a much larger market. Our clinical trials are already running at Changi General Hospital, and despite the COVID situation, it's already 30% over. And we have 5 hospitals in the pipeline, either as a customer or to run additional clinical trials. And our team includes experts with decades of experience in the field, and we are supported by Singapore, UK, and Canada's leading startup accelerators. And with that, I welcome any question that you might have.
Hi, so this is Julie. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, yeah, my question is, how do you see this go to market for the phase 2, which is, the much bigger market opportunity?
Yes.
Does this need a prescription from a doctor, or is this over the counter?
So interestingly, sleep apnea screening is a bit of a gray area. So there's no clear indication there. So right now it's possible to sell it over the counter. But our strategy right now is to partner with the biggest treatment players, which are right now Philips and ResMed. So for these companies, their bigger market is selling the CPAP machine, which is the treatment. And they really are looking for solutions that can simplify the diagnosis so that they can sell their devices. So we are already in talks with them, and they are quite interested once we are closer to regulatory approval. And they would become our distribution channels. They will go out and talk to the GPs, the dentists, so that we have a much larger market to tap into our customers.
So it's Pete Hawkes here from J&J. So thanks for your presentation, appreciate it. I just got a couple of questions. So first is, this area of patches is becoming crowded, but there's certainly a number of people entering this market space. Yes. In perhaps different areas. Maybe iRhythm is probably one of the leading ones, measuring heart, etc., and things like that. So my question is barriers to entry and this space. You could see a number of people are doing not maybe exactly what you're doing, but could easily jump across measuring ECG, all those types of things. So probably my question is, how do you stop competitors coming into your space? And so that's my first question. And probably the second question is based on accuracy and that, and it sounds like you're doing a clinical study. So maybe that first question first.
Sure. I think you are quite correct to point out that in terms of hardware, it's an extremely crowded market, mostly driven by ECG and arrhythmia detection. And in fact, the device that I showed, we actually don't manufacture this. This is with a collaboration with a company called Shunto. So there is nothing unique when it comes to the ECG patch itself. What is unique is the analytics that we build on top of it. So as you mentioned, there is this company called Onera, which is a direct competitor to us, and they are a spin-off out of iRhythm. And they are essentially building what we are building here. And the competitive advantage for us comes in terms of how much time and effort we have already spent developing this analytics platform. Although hardware, there is nothing unique, you need something to be able to extract this sleep information out of that ECG signal at a good enough accuracy that it can replace existing in-lab sleep tests. And that's where our advantage comes in. So first of all, we have very strong presence in the academic field. And that is allowing us to tap into massive amounts of data. And this is quite diverse data coming across the world. And we have spent a lot of time iterating over the analytics platform to a point where we are now at a level of accuracy which almost matches an in-lab sleep test. So this is essentially a time advantage that we have of 2 to 4 years. And if we just wait, we'll basically lose and someone else will take that advantage. So that's basically where our advantage is right now. And in terms of accuracy, our platform Z3 score, we actually published our accuracy reports. It is one of the most well-validated software out there. And that's why we have convinced a lot of academics to join our platform and start using it for their academic use. And we are quite confident that this is exactly the place where we have an advantage, and we know that we can beat anyone else in terms of accuracy. And that's why we took the clinical angle and not the consumer angle here.
Thanks.
How far are you from the commercialization, and what's your commercialization strategy?
So as I mentioned, we will be first going with just the software, which basically automates the part of manual scoring. So if you look at the US market, there are approximately 5,000 to 6,000 sleep clinics out there. And a majority of this is right now done, the analysis is done manually. A good amount goes out to India and Philippines, where there are technicians who do the analysis, but quality suffers. But if you want to hire technicians to do the analysis within US, it's very costly. So that's a market which is already very mature. And our strategy is basically to go to the C-level people who are running the sleep labs and directly sell the software to them. So the sell cycle won't be that long for the software. It's 3 to 6 months. And we are expecting between 50,000 to 100,000 ARR coming out of each hospital. And of course, the patch, we are trying to partner with the bigger players so that we have the distribution channel. And the patch will fit into a reimbursement code in the US.
Hi, this is Stephen Lee from J&J Innovation. Thank you for the presentation. I may have missed it in your presentation, but is this wireless or are there wires attached to the patch?
The patch it's Bluetooth.
I see. Okay. And do you have any kind of user experience data? You know, do they sleep well with a patch on them?
I have very limited data right now because the patch is a little bit under development as of now. The analytics is very well developed, but with the limited number of users who have used this, they say that it's very comfortable. And you of course have to compare with the current standard, which is, if you look at current home sleep test, you actually have to wear 2 belts, a nose cannula, a finger tap, and it is extremely cumbersome to use as of now. And in fact, both the co-founders of the company are suffering from sleep apnea, so I also have apnea, and I figured this out using my own device.
Right. And you mentioned about partnering with a potential solution providers. Can you elaborate further on that? What sort of solutions?
Yeah, so the major treatment side is treatment solution is CPAP, which is basically a mask that you wear with a small pump attached. And the big players are Philips and ResMed. So right now, if you have a sleep disorder, you normally go to a specialist or sometimes the dentist, because dentists also have certain solutions that sometimes works. So the idea here is, and this is where Philips is also aligning with us, is to train GPs to deliver this solution, the CPAP solution. And for that to happen, for that to work at scale, Philips and ResMed both are looking for a screening and diagnostic solution that can work at scale. So our idea is to partner with Philips and ResMed, and basically as they are training their GPs to deliver CPAP, we basically come up with this solution to make the screening, the bridge between the diagnosis, the treatment and the patient seamless.
Okay. All right, let's move on to Grace Imaging. Daisuke, do we have the audio working?
Yes, maybe. Can you hear my voice? Okay. No
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, can you see my slide? Okay, I appreciate that you gave me this kind of opportunity. Now we at Grace Imaging are offering cardiac rehabilitation services using a new wearable device that can measure lactic acid in sweat. As you know, lactic acid is widely known as a fatigue substance. First, let me give you a brief introduction to my company. Grace Imaging is a startup company from Keio University School of Medicine, registered in July 2018. And we have developed the world's first wearable devices that can continuously measure lactic acid. This technology is protected by a strong international patent. To date, we have received 0.9 million in funding from the Japan GC for medical research and development aimed at Japanese agency. In addition, we have received support for medical devices development from the Tokyo Metropolitan Government's MedTech, which will provide up to 6 million in funding if one of the 3 companies is selected in the next fiscal year. And we have received hardware development support from Sony during Sony. And we are almost finished prototyping. And we have also been selected as a winner or the finalist in the Trust Tokyo Healthcare Venture Contest and IBM Blue Hub. This figure was taken from a research paper on healthcare economics in the cardiovascular field supported by Japan GC. 15,000 people with acute heart failure are hospitalized in Japan every year. And it is now widely known that cardiac rehabilitation is a more powerful therapy than catheterization to improve patient outcomes and readmission rates. However, only 7% of people or patients receive the perfect rehabilitation. It's a similar situation in the West where heart disease is common. Why isn't cardiac rehabilitation being done? In fact, let's take a look at the cardiac rehabilitation. This is a test that is a part of the cardiac rehabilitation process called breath gas analysis. The patient is supposed to wear a mask, which is very uncomfortable. In addition, this test requires a number of medical personnel. As you can see, this test requires a great deal of financial and human resources, and cardiac rehabilitation is costly.
This is one of the reasons why cardiac rehabilitation is so difficult to spread. We would replace this huge breath gas analyzer with small device that wraps around the upper arm. The sensor part that reacts with lactic acid is attached to the skin, yes, this sensor. And the data from the sensor is displayed on the smartphone with Bluetooth. The size of this device is 1/3 of a business card. Let's look at the actual data. One of the tests for cardiac rehabilitation is called ramp load. For this test, we will use the breath gas analyzer we just described. The process of increasing the exercise load, the body's energy metabolism switches from aerobic to anoxic metabolism. In the middle of this change, the concentration of carbon dioxide in the breath gas analyzer rises. This point is called the anoxic metabolic threshold, 80 point. This point can also be measured by measuring the lactic acid in the blood. In this case, it is called the lactic acid threshold, the LT point. However, LT points can only be measured after severe blood draws. Therefore, the invasion of the patient can be very high. As you can see, measuring AT or LT points can be very burdensome. But with our devices, it is very accurate and easy to measure. As a business model, this sensor part is disposable. In the initial stages, we will sell these chips to generate revenue. But we will also aim to add more values to the data itself by accumulating it. Eventually, we will develop its licensing business as a cardiac rehabilitation system. This is our team. I, Daisuke Nakashimura, am a medical doctor in Keio University and president of our company. The Taizo and myself have more than 10 years of business and since development experience to support their business development. In addition, the development of this technology to cardiac rehabilitation was born from a reunion between myself and Dr. Katsumata. He is an alumnus of my university and he's a cardiologist. He conceived the adaptation of lactic acid advanced technology in cardiac rehabilitation. And he and I are now working together to develop this system. The company's development roadmap and total sales and technology are explained in the question section. Thank you for hearing my pitch.
Do we have any questions from the judges?
Yes, I'm Yuji Takamiya from Olympus. I have a question about the regulatory path. This measurement must be very unique, and it means it requires PMA process rather than the 510K process. What do you think about the clinical study sites or regulatory path?
So now we are already go to the PMDA in Japanese regulatory section, and so they say that this device is the class medical devices and devices. And we need the clinical trials, and we are scheduled already scheduled in 2021. And the concept of this clinical trial is how these devices can predict the 80 point. And we already have the result that our devices can predict the 80 point. The correlation ratio is about 0.8, and so we think we can get the adequate result in these clinical trials in the future.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
I have a question. I'm Ryota Megaki from Nipro Corporation. Does this device need calibration before use?
Yes. Now in this stage, we need the calibration, and in the calibration stage, we need the PBS, the buffer, and we need 2 or 3 minutes for calibration. After that, we can use our devices. But for the future, we make the advanced devices which don't need the calibration, like the Lactate Pro, which is a competitor of our devices. This device can measure the blood lactic acid, and this device cannot measure the sweat lactic acid continuously. So our devices has a strong advantages than these devices.
Thank you very much.
One question. My name is Kiyoshi Miyake from Olympus. So you mentioned about the patent protection. So the patent protected about the sensor portion of this device or any other portion of this device?
Yes, we have two patents. So the first patent is for the the structure of the chip. So this is the principle of our lactic acid measurement technique. So this system has actually the same as the one used in blood. The current value generated when lactic acid reacts with lactic acid oxidase is determined to be the lactic acid concentration and displayed in the application. By using our technology, we are able to encapsulate lactic acid oxidase on the chip and create a structure that reacts continuously rather than singly. And normally, better preservation result in worse reactivity, but our chips react in 0.1 second. As a result, both immediate reactivity and preservation were achieved to our technique. So this is the most important point of our patent.
Question from Moez here from Align Technology. Can you please move to the slide that was showing all the competitors?
Yes, competitor.
And could you please tell us a bit more about why this device, the other one, the one with the list, yeah, why your device is the only one suitable for medical use?
Okay, so these are the competitors, and so this basic insight and Gomar-Gami can predict the LT point by using the heart pulse. But in cardiac rehabilitation, the patient are controlled the rate by the beta blocker or other devices. So by the pulse, especially in cardiac rehabilitation, we cannot measure the LT point. So we have the advantages than other devices. And Kenzen is a major startup that raised 10 million in 2015, but they cannot make the product now. So I think our device is the first devices to measure directly the sweat lactic acid.
Florian from Siemens Healthineers, why is it a disposal? Why do you have to throw it away after usage? Can you not use it more often?
This chip is conceptually you can measure the lactic acid repeatedly, but so the accuracy is decreases if you use this chip.
I didn't get that. Why can't I didn't get that? Why can you use it more often?
So if the activity of the enzyme is preserved, you can use this chip, but the accuracy is decreased. So
okay,
I recommend you to use only a single.
Okay, good, thank you.
Oh, I have one question.
Yeah.
So that in your presentation, can I?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So in your presentation, sorry, I'm Masayagi from Japan Biodesign. So in your presentation, you said that only 7% of the patients perform the cardiac rehabilitation.
Yes.
So why they don't do the cardiac rehabilitation? So you use.
So
main
there are
cause. Yes.
So there are many factors which the cause of the immature field why the cardiac rehabilitation is performed. So the first reason is it needs many people, even medical staffs, because. So, for example, this brief gas analyzer is very expensive, about $100,000 per one devices. So this is very expensive, and we need at least 3 people to perform this examination. So the cost is one of the reason why the cardiac rehabilitation is not performed.
So you mean the expenditure in the hospital, or expenditure of the patients, or burden of the patients for this device?
Above, to use our devices, we can decrease the cost for the hospital and the patient.
Yes. So thereby reducing the cost and reducing the burden of the patients.
Yes.
By doing that, you are trying to increase the number of the patients who perform the cardiac rehabilitation properly.
Yes, that's right.
In
but their cost for the nation decreases because the hospital don't need to buy the expensive system for measuring the breath gas analyzer.
Okay, so this system has an issue in this area.
Yes.
Okay, understand. Okay, thank you. Yes.
So it's Pete Hawks here from J&J. Just a question regarding this photo you have on screen. So just can you just explain what your device is replacing? Clearly you have the exercise machine, so that stays. I thought I did see a slide that you still needed a mask. Is it replacing all of this equipment, or just kind of the sensory measurement equipment? Just want to get an understanding out of the $100,000 that it costs today, how can, through your device, reduce this, and how much by?
Okay,
thanks.
So this device is so the system of the breath gas analyzer is the background of this patient, this monitor, and this machine, and this machine, and to combine these machines, these machines, we firstly measure the AT point. So it is very costful. But if you buy once, you can use this system for 3 years or 4 years.
Okay, so sorry, can you just, how much is it reducing the cost by? Just high level, really high level.
So our device is on this part. The hardware is about, well, now $1,000 or $2,000, and the cost is about $100 to $2,000, and the cost of chip is about $10, so very cheap.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so the last question before we move on to the next startup, a question for you, Daisuke, is just wondering what would you want to get out of the MedTech Innovator APEC program?
Sorry, can I have a question?
Okay, so.
Sorry, can I have a question?
No, I don't have the question now.
So we have to move on to the next startup in light of time, but before we move on, I would like to ask, like, Daisuke, what would you guys like to have out of the MedTech Innovator program?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we need now we need to get their connection with their Asia or Australian or US market for the preparation to their FDA submission.
Okay, all right, let's move on to the next startup. So Meticulous. So Bunrat from Meticulous would be presenting. Daisuke, if you could stop the screen sharing, then Bunrat can start his screen sharing.
Okay, wait a minute, please.
Bunrat, are you online?
Hello, everyone. Can you see the screen?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. My name is Bunrat. I'm from Meticulous. And basically, we make customized surgical solution for medical implants, such as orthopedic implants, neurosurgery implants, and also plastic surgery. These are some of the problems we're trying to solve here locally in Thailand. So for the field of orthopedic surgery, these are examples of the clavicle plate. This is the collarbone that has been broken. Most of the bicyclists right now are experiencing this type of collarbone problem. These are actually our clavicle plate. But you would see that even though the X-ray image is exposed in the same fashion, but all the clavicles are of different and unique shapes and sizes. On the right-hand side, this is the typical clavicle plate from AO, for example, that the doctor has to try to adapt the shape and the curvature. They have to bend it so that it fits with our anatomy. So these are referred to as standard small, medium, large sizes for the implants. So these are some of the tools that's needed. This is from another surgery. You would see that there's a saw, routers, screws, drill bits, all kinds of preparations to make our body to fit with the implant. The anatomy of the patient has to be diverted to degrees, 41 millimeters, 50, and levels of angles, 0 plus 4 plus 8 degrees. So all of these measurements are because the implants are delivered in standard sizes. So we have to find the size that fit with our body. So in hospitals, in the surgical theater, you would have a lot of boxes like this of different sizes. And in many countries around the world, because of the cost of the inventory, a lot of times we do not have all the sizes available. And also on the right-hand side, you see the photo of the surgical tools that are needed inside the surgical theater. There are 5, 6 boxes for a single surgery, which can be used only once a day because it has to be cleansed afterwards and sterilized. And the majority of the tools are actually for sizing to adapt the sizes of what's available with our body. Another pain point comes from the field of neurosurgery. We have many patients around the world with this sort of cranialnectomy, and the current gold standards are either using a PMMA molded to shape, and it really depends on the artistic ability of the doctors to mold it back into shape for the patient. Or in some cases, titanium meshes like this are used, and it has to be bent in the surgical theater so that it conforms with the shape of the skull. So our solution is to start with a CT scan. This is actually not new. I think many of you are probably familiar with this. We have started working with this technology about CT scans from the patient, and then we do the online consulting service design, which is now aided by AI algorithm. So we could generate the designs within a matter of hours and propose back to the doctors in the application. If all goes well, the doctor accepts the design, or he could also make some minor adjustments. And then we start the manufacturing process in our own clean room and sterilized environment and deliver it back to the surgical theater within 2 to 7 days. So, that's a whole concept of what we are offering from Meticulous. So these are some of the examples. This is radial head fracture. You would see that the shape is very unique to the anatomy. It looks like a cam lobe in cars because the way our elbows work is that there's a way that we could actually lock our elbow to exert more loads if needed. Or in this case, we have a patient with skull defect. They could also regain the exact cosmetic appearance after the surgery. This is the example of the video that we offered to the doctor. He could see the broken head and also the new prostheses that's being inserted to make sure that the inside is fitting well with the intermedullary canal, and the outside there's a perfect fit with the surrounding bones. This is actually a very complex joint because of the way our elbows move. So, so these are the conventional methods and our solutions. This is a mandible reconstruction case. We offer the doctor just all the guides, the cutting tools, the drilling guides, so that the doctors would have not to guess and make adjustments. They could just work with our guide. So the implants, there's no more need to keep the inventory. We deliver to the hospital one at a time. So the market size that we're working on, right now we have about 35 available implants for all of our body. And the market addressable size in the global market is about 6 billion. We are expanding more products. So the market size will expand to 6 and 96 billion as years in the years to come. And this is the roadmap of how we work on this. First of all, on the left-hand side is the centralized cloud-based design consulting platform. Everything is done in cloud computing right now. So our designers could be anywhere in the world. And we work with the doctors with our database of over 1,000 patients so far. And once the design is done on cloud, then we send the file to the centralized local satellite factories around the world. Right now, we have 2 factories in Thailand, and we are hoping to expand this to other parts of the world. So the competitor landscape.
Sorry, I will have to stop you in a bit because we have to move on to the Q&A. Yeah, so
sure.
you could just wrap up.
Yeah. Right. Okay. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you, Sakina.
Hi, this is Dan Wang from Johnson & Johnson. Can you describe a little bit more on your manufacture process? When you design the product, the implant online, do you use a 3D printing or any other type of technology to ensure the manufacture on time?
Okay, I think there are at least 3 bottlenecks for manufacturing medical devices. First one is the design itself. Most of the companies, particularly shown here on the competitors landscape, they work from CT scans. They extract information, they reconstruct the model in computers and do the design. But we have been training our database and the algorithm so that the design for many of the devices now could be done in about half an hour. And that also includes biomechanic finite element analysis of the devices. So that's the first one. We try to speed up the design process. Second one, you're right on. We are using 3D printing technology to do this. Off-the-shelf machines could probably deliver each of the implants in about 1 to 2 days. We have speed up the equipment, so it's the system with laser adjustments, the print parameters, the protocols. We also have IP on the raw materials itself, the titanium alloy. It's IP patent pending at the moment. But it's the manufacturing process itself that we also consider as our secret recipe. And third one is the finishing process. 3D printing accounts for, it's only the platform, it accounts for maybe 10% of the manufacturing process. But we have to find automated ways to deliver the roughness values that are comparable to the knee processes, for example, with when we work on the joints, the movement parts. So that is the final touch. The third one is regarding the finishing processes that we have speed up significantly.
Hey, Bernard, this is Alden with Oliver Healthcare. So we do spend a lot of time in orthopedics, and one question I have is more on the manufacturing side of things regarding really transportation and distribution testing, especially when you start making customized medical devices. It sounds like your core business is going to be kind of on the 3D design development, but when you actually manufacture the device and now you have to take it in for sterilization, you have to develop a sterile barrier system, and then you have to get it to a hospital somehow. How do you plan on executing that if you've not pre-tested or validated that sterile barrier is going to be, we're going to have integrity, by the time it reaches the hospital? Have you guys considered anything like that? Or are you working with anybody on getting through that regulatory hurdle at the moment?
We are approved for ISO 13485, and it's covers the processes from the design all the way to sterilization. The sterilization is actually, I have to admit, it's one of our weak point. We are working on the process to autoclave everything. We package and deliver them to the hospitals with the, just like the big manufacturers would do. But of course, in the near future, we are working on other materials. And instead of printing just titanium or the cutting guides with some sort of plastics, we are working on other materials as well. And cartilage, for example, and we should find better ways to sterilize. But right now, the ISO covers all the way to sterilization with our own standard packaging and the protocol to confirm the sterility of the process. Did I answer your questions?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, autoclave is tricky too. So, but I'm more than welcome to share our, technical expertise with you, maybe after the call. So, very interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank
you.
Hi, this is Deep from Boston Scientific. I had a quick question for you. You're doing customized, very customized device. So how do you ensure the quality of each and every device that goes out without adding incredibly to the cost of the product itself? Because these are not produced in large numbers. These are very customized pieces that you're talking about.
Thank you, Deep. Are you referring to the mechanical properties or the design aspects, or?
Yeah, the mechanical properties, because as they are customized, it's not a standard fit. So the standard fit can be tested through various processes, and then you're doing that again and again. Here, because each individual part is unique, how do you ensure that it passes the right quality standards? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. This question keeps me awake for almost a year. About 5 years ago, we tried to come up with a method to reliably produce the devices with 3D printing. It's around the same time that the aviation industry also approved for 3D printing for some of the parts used in aviation industry. So we really have to find ways to be able to repeat the printing process and the protocol, and also ways to cross-verify for all the print jobs that we have, that the materials would behave in the same way. We printed over 5,000 pieces for certification, actually, of different sizes and forms, and also the cross-checking pieces that we have. So, so yeah, we have to find a way to to confirm that, like Deep just asked, and it's the printing itself concerns with the use of the powder. We have to make sure that the oxygen content that we have is within the limit that we set up. The print protocol is also within the limit that we have, and also the post we have skin core strategy, which means inside we have one parameters for doing the laser scan inside the processes, and on the outside on the surface we have another parameter. So we could go into the detail maybe after this meeting, but yeah, it's actually something that we have to accomplish when we started this company a while back. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Hi, Brad. This is William from Warburg Pincus. I just have two questions. One is what kind of equipment tools you provide to the surgeons during the operation, because a trauma product, it's very complex and you need to provide all the operation tools. The second question is because you're talking about you centralize all the patient data onto the cloud, but to move the patient data across the different kind of jurisdiction board, there will be certain kind of rules behind. So how you want to take that kind of obstacles to pass all the different rules across different countries and jurisdiction areas? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. William, right? First question is regarding the tools that we are providing. I'll show you a little bit of our products. We deliver the implants like these processes. Some of them are partial, some of them are augment devices. So, okay. So these are some of the devices that we provide. In the middle, you would see that these are the cutting guides with the drill slots and the cutting slots. The doctor still have to use his universal kit for cutting, but we actually know how many sizes of the blades that they are using, and also the drills that they are using. Different companies have different screw size and also different drill bits, but this is the sort of things that we work beforehand with the doctors to know the size of K-wire that they're using, the size of the screws that they're using, and the blades that they're using. But the other tools, we try to make sure that the doctors have all of them available.
Okay, in other words, you don't provide any specific tools for the surgeon, and you just try to using other available tools for your product.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's really, yeah.
Hi, Bumrod. This is Stephen Lee from J&J Innovation. Quick question, and you may have mentioned this already, but do you do 3D printing in-house or is this outsourced? And if you do it in-house, what experience do you have with using metals?
Thank you for the question. Sorry, William asked me another question, so I'll quickly answer about anonymization, and I'll answer this printing question.
Sorry, guys, we really need to wrap up. Sorry, so.
Okay.
Okay, so like we can take on the last, Bunrat, you can reply, and after that you can, we have to move on strictly to the next startup. Thanks everyone for the questions, but just giving the heads up now. Okay.
Thank you, Sakina. We do anonymization to conform with the laws. So the information of the patient are excluded. The names are excluded. Only one officer in our company has a name, but they would know the name. But then after that, it's been stripped off, anonymized. We only require sex of the patient, the age, the size, and the organ that we need to replace. So we try to really conform with the the laws. At least right now we're conforming with Southeast Asia with the CSDT. To answer the last question regarding the 3D printing, yes, we do everything in-house. 5-6 years ago, we started 3D printing metals, and we thought that it was a turnkey, but it's actually far away from that. Right now, if you buy the equipment, it really takes time to to get the machine work to the ways that you want. We almost gave up this project 4 years ago because of that. But after working with the reputable laser source, the machines that we're using are of high standards. My background is in materials, so we do a lot of characterizations and analysis of the materials before and after printing. So we could get that going. So, but yes, it's actually one of the biggest challenges that we have is to get the 3D printing to work properly and repeatable, and also the mechanical properties like Deep asked before. So thanks everyone for all the questions.
Thank you, Bunrat. So Bunrat, one last question. What are you looking to get out of the MedTech Innovator program?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm a biomedical engineering professor, and we have been working on this for a while in Thailand. We have worked with over 1,000 CTs and 250 cases, clinical cases so far with many key opinion leaders. So I believe that we have a product that is really market fit. But I don't know what else to do, right? We work with many doctors here in Thailand, but we like to expand our horizons, have this technology available to the rest of the world. We just started the US FDA at the end of last year. And the reimbursement is still very not clear for me. The sterilization, we know that we could sterilize this, but what about other products that we are working on at the moment? So there are so many other questions that need to be answered. Okay. And I hope the program could offer some of the insights to the questions that I have to be answered. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bunrat, and thank you, judges. So now we move on to the next startup, Respyre.
Okay, hello everyone. Can you hear me? Can you see my screen share?
Yep.
Okay, so my name is Gurpreet. I'm the founder for Respyre, and I believe I'm being joined with one of my co-founders, Chris. So essentially what we provide is really to democratize targeted diagnosis and predictions for chronic respiratory disease that includes COPD, asthma, pneumonia, for example, using some novel breathing biomarkers and artificial intelligence. Let me start by just sharing the pain point. So respiratory rate essentially is the most predictive vital sign, probably much more predictive compared to heart rate and blood pressure, the conventional hemodynamics. But unfortunately, it is also one of the least measured vital signs. In fact, if you looked at the bottom right plot, you would find that one way to really unlock very early prediction is specifically to combine that with hemodynamics like SpO2, which is pretty much asymptotic in nature. And because of that, it actually provides you a very late prediction. The other interesting aspect is if you look at the diagnosis across different kinds of severity levels, specifically for COPD patients, you would find that the conventional spirometry or FEVs are potentially not as good compared to, in fact, respiratory rate, which actually provides a more statistical differentiating between high to mid levels of severity. But it's just not only respiratory rate, respiratory variability in fact has a lot of information. For example, you can extract specific features from breathing patterns of patients suffering, say, from COPD, asthma, or pneumonia. And on the right side, you actually show an example of, for example, if you use tidal volume, how in fact, just looking at variations of tidal volumes are able to provide statistical diagnosis for patients suffering from, for example, pneumonia, asthma, in fact, COPD. So if it's such a huge important, why hasn't anyone solved it as yet? So fundamentally, from the hardware perspective, there's still the issue of accuracy in terms of respiratory rate monitoring from indirect watch and ECG patch. Other areas are, for example, on compliance. So for example, you can wear a chest strap or vacuum-based sensor, but it's really hard to get patients who are elderly or in fact females to wear those sort of sensors. From the software aspects, in terms of data sets and models, there's still far more work that still needs to be done with that aspect. In fact, not as much medical research in terms of building classifying models or predictive models that are very centric on using some of these respiratory variability markers. So the product that we have, essentially, we have developed this wearable sensor that you can actually use to measure some of these breathing patterns. These are very sensitive and specific to different kinds of diseases. It comes in two forms, so you can actually wear it for long-term monitoring as a patch form. It also comes in the short-term monitoring as a brooch form, which is actually non-contact to your skin. So that's quite compliant for certain patients. We have completed clinical validation for this sensor, so we are actually now in pre-submission for FDA 510(k). One of the use cases that we have is really to build very fast screeners for respiratory diseases, and these actually include COPD, asthma, and pneumonia. The top part, you can actually see, based on statistics, how different kinds of features from respiratory variability can actually show statistical split between healthy cohorts and even patients suffering from COPD and asthma. You can potentially combine multiple features using AI platforms that can actually recognize some of these patterns. And we can actually show you some proof that, in fact, some of these classifiers can be used to split, for example, COPD and asthma with very high fidelities. Very useful use cases for this, specifically in outpatient settings for screening and diagnosis of patients suffering from COPD and asthma. And to really augment the current practice of basically using spirometry, which essentially you need a trained personnel and pretty much is more specific for acute hospitals. Another aspect that we are looking at is to really predict worsening conditions 24 hours at once using breathing variability. So using our AI models, we build decompensation scores. And you can see on the left side some examples of our results that we have for in-hospital prediction. And on the right side is an example of how breathing rate can actually be used to predict decompensation for COPD patients days in advance. We have another use case, which is on mental health. This is an example of how respiratory variability can actually provide better statistical significance compared to heart rate, IBI. And this was a study that we did on patients suffering from depression and anxiety. So one of the nice things is we actually recovered very novel respiratory biomarkers that's able to actually provide very good splits between and able to provide fast screening biomarkers able to look at patients suffering from depression and anxiety. The entire platform comes with a centralized data service, so you can have the sensor all the way connected to a mobile app and provides you visualizations on the dashboard itself. So for Respyre, we fundamentally are looking at two key stakeholders, the hospitals that we work with to provide for home care and in the general ward screening and triaging, as well as pharma companies, where Respyre will be positioned for looking at drug validation in the clinical trials, as well as compliance monitoring of patients and generating proof of value for pharma companies to clinicians as well as to end users. In terms of value proposition for hospitals, essentially is to better triage readmissions, reduce unplanned ICUs, which are fundamentally cost related. With respect to pharma companies, is essentially to create cheaper drug trial endpoints, as well as to generate proof of value care and better patient engagement, which actually translates to revenue generation. So for us, we are fundamentally focused on the US market as well as Asia Pac. The CAGR is about 12% with a market size of about 20 billion. Our go-to-market strategy is essentially to leverage firstly on direct sales to hospital chains, and secondly to leverage on existing networks for scale that includes the device distributors, research companies, as well as pharma companies. In terms of timeline-wise, for the sensor, we have made our pre-submission for the 510K, and we expect to complete the FDA 510K approvals by July, August. For diagnostics, it will most likely take a de novo route, and we expect the pre-submissions to be done somewhere in the mid of this year. And inpatient predictive and home predictive analytics will follow suit for pre-submissions towards the end of the year. The company otherwise is ISO 13485 certified. So in terms of pricing strategies, we price based on the sensor because the sensor can be used for triaging, for spot monitoring in itself. We also have pricing plans for data access, so hospitals can use the data coming up from the sensors for their own analytics. We also have data interpretation costs, so we work with academic institutes, public health institutes to use the platform for clinical research and to leverage the models which we have built over the past 3 years. We also have a home care platform that is that it can be basically reimbursed from CMS. A couple of paid projects that we have and clinical trials that we have. So for commercial side, we are actually deploying this for COVID-19. We also have an in-hospital AI development for predictive analytics. We partner with academic research institutes specifically to leverage on the platform for predicting and monitoring of mental health. And lastly is on the pharmaceutical deployment. With respect to clinical trials, we have 3 clinical trials ongoing and upcoming actually because of the COVID-19. There's a bit of pause on that. One at MGH for home care predictive analytics, at CGH, which is specifically looking at respiratory diagnostics, and a very interesting area on looking at COPD, psychophysiology analytics with a French hospital at Pité-Salpêtrière. This is just giving you a very conservative look at our sales performance in terms of pricing. Pretty much for this year, we have actually kind of almost met our sales targets. Our gross margins are about 80%, and we expect the usage to actually scale to about 71 million in terms of patient days over 5 years. If you can look at the sensing platform and analytics platform, it's very broad. Actually, the applications go very wide. In fact, one of the other areas we are looking at is on pediatrics to build the analytics and the sensors for pediatrics. Women's health is another area which we are also quite interested in, specifically to look at mental health, depression in prenatal and postnatal mothers. And the last part, of course, is to build the digital therapeutics platform specifically for the hospitals that can actually integrate both the pharma as well as the payer care. In terms of
wrap up so that we can move on to the questions, you can just make one last last sentence.
Yeah, these are the advisors, the team, some publicity, traction-wise, and selected publications and conferences. Okay.
Thank you, Gurpreet. So now we'll move on to the judges. We have about 10 minutes left for the judges' questions.
And while the judges are asking questions, maybe you could put the team slide back up. We can take a look at that.
Thank you. Judges, any questions?
So Florian from Siemens Healthineers, can you give us some more details about the accuracy? You mentioned in the beginning that is a challenge. So what is it? What makes you so confident this is the game changer in that way?
Yeah, so if you look at, for example, ECG, let me just get it out for you. Yeah, so traditionally, if we look at how people actually measure respiratory rates, fundamentally, it is still leveraging on an indirect measure approach by using ECG. There are also other ways you can do it using respiratory sinus arrhythmia from your pulse oximetry. The issues with that is fundamentally it's an indirect approach, so you're not going to get very high accuracies on that. Our approach is the direct approach, so we don't use ECG patch. It's actually a novel way of measuring respiratory patterns, and given that it is actually a direct approach, we can actually measure it with a higher fidelity compared to indirect methods. But fundamentally, the difference here is we also collect respiratory variability patterns per se. And these patterns actually hold quite a fair amount of clinical information in terms of being able to discriminate between diseases. And these actually have been clinically published and proven in literature.
Okay, thank you.
Can you just, Peter Hawkes here from J&J, can you just talk a little bit more about where you are in relation to your commercialization strategy? What are your key markets? Why the US? Do you have a team in the US currently? Yeah, just kind of a bit more broad kind of on the commercial side and particularly kind of your team as well.
Yeah, so for US markets, one of the key reasons for looking at the US market is essentially COPD in itself is it's a huge issue with respect to readmission, high readmission rates. Fundamentally as well, fair amount of wastage in terms of healthcare resources in the US. The other aspect of why US markets per se, they have a very good, I mean, the reimbursement policies and the regulatory pathways are more or less pretty much ironed out from that perspective. We are actually seeing the ingress more from the census perspective first, and then that will actually follow suit with the analytics platform, specifically for diagnostics and for prediction. For diagnostics wise, it will be more towards outpatient monitoring. So pretty much GP clinics, triaging, for example, polyclinics, or primary care, which will fundamentally leverage on the diagnostic classifiers.
And do you have a team in the US?
We are building a team now. So we are in the process of talking to people who are positioned now in the US with backgrounds in healthcare. So that is a process that is ongoing.
Okay, so, and where's the team currently based in? Currently.
So presently the team is otherwise in Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
And Gurpreet, you had a slide on traction that you kind of breezed past when you ran out of time. So maybe just put that one up as well. Sorry, I know it's near the end of your presentation. I just wanted to see some of the other. Yeah, so you've got, so study-wise, you have a couple different studies going on. Are there, you said that they're almost finished right now, or they are finished?
Yeah, so we have two upcoming clinical trials, actually three for that matter. But because of the COVID-19, it's actually paused for in terms of recruitment. Traction-wise, we have completed nearly about 340 subjects. Part of them are healthy volunteers and part of them are patients. Part of those patients are suffering from chronic respiratory disease and part of them are suffering from mental health disorders, specifically depression and anxiety. We have actually filed a patent, which is currently in national phase entry. Trademarks have also been filed, specifically in Singapore and in the US. We have more than 5 clinical publications, 1 accepted, 2 in peer review, and 3 which are actually in publication now, and a 510(k) that has been submitted as a pre-submission.
Got it. Thank you. And did you mention or not if you were working? Had you reached out already to BARDA in the U.S. about, or anyone specific about doing some of the COVID-19 related work?
So we have COVID-19 efforts actually in Singapore. We are looking at some efforts in other parts of the world, specifically in Israel. But in the US currently now, not at this point of time, we have not actually had anything from there. I think people are probably busy managing the situation in US itself.
Yeah, they are. There's just some opportunities that we work with directly with a group with a federal agency called BARDA that is doing a lot of the work for deploying some of the testing right now and some of the diagnostics and monitoring technology. So something we can follow up with afterwards, but I think it's an opportunity we should talk about.
Sure.
Yeah, I have a question. This is Tomoko from Nipro Corporation. So you have several clinical trials currently going on. How are you financing those clinical trials, and then how the outcome of each clinical trial will feed into either the approval of your device or different use case of your device?
So for our clinical trials now, we are actually funding it from internal funds, or actually public grants. You can say that. For the mass gen efforts, these are actually going to go into home care predictive analytics. So they will be moving into the 510Ks for that. For respiratory diagnostics, pretty much that will still be centric in Singapore, and part of that will also be taking the data out from MGH itself. That will likely be on the DMEMO route. And for the other one in France, that's actually more on exploratory.
Have time for another 1 to 2 more questions. If there's any more questions from the judges. Okay, cool. So one last question for Gurpreet, yourself. Could you share with everyone what you're looking to get out of MedTech Innovator?
Yeah, so I think for us, essentially, is to fine tune probably some of our business models and business strategies that we have with respect to Respyre, and potentially also to expand the clinical networks that we have specific to the MedTech area, and yeah, to probably interact more with other participants and the key opinion leaders within the field itself.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time to present, and thank you, judges, once again. So we will now be moving on to the judges' deliberation, but we'll get on a 5-minute break. So for all of the startups, we thank you for your time in presenting. We will be moving you guys offline because the judges' deliberation will be between the judges. So we'll get in touch with any other updates after this call. So thank you once again, all startups and judges.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, great job to the startups. And certainly, as Sakina mentioned, we'll be following up with you after this to continue with some additional questions. So great job today. Thank you, everybody on the startup side for participating. You will hear from us soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And judges, please stay online.
So judges, yes, stay online. We're just going to take a 5-minute break to give everybody a chance to stretch, and then we'll get to deliberation. Great job.